Yeah, everybody, welcome to the Education Outreach Group. Thank you for joining us today. Jeremy is from our Public Services is the chair of this group, and Kim is from Keep Truckee Meadows Beautiful is the co-chair for this group. So I will turn it over to them, and I look forward to seeing what comes out of this group.
All right, thank you, Bree. So again, Jeremy Walters, I'm with Republic Services. Thank you all for taking the time to join today. I think that there's a lot of work to be done in the sustainability realm on recycling, education, energy education, mining, whatever it may be. There's so many facets of sustainability that I think that we as a state need to do a better job getting out to the public. There's a number of things that come to mind when it comes to education, and I think it's probably safe to say that when we think about it, we think about children, right? That's a big part of it. But I think I've seen a number of your names on some of the other working groups, and through those discussions, we need to understand that education doesn't just stop with the children, right? A lot of what is going to be shaped in the future for sustainability is talking to policymakers, right? Movers and shakers that are going to actually drive the sustainability effort in Southern Nevada, Northern Nevada, rural Nevada, right? All those folks need to be a part of the conversation. And so hopefully what we can do, being represented on many of the other working groups, is take some of the things that they have desires for and then translate that into tangible education. So I will introduce my co-chair, Kim Rios, and then after that, we'll go through the list of participants and do some brief introductions as to who you are, the organization you represent, and then, we'll dive right into the discussion. My vision, I think Kim's as well, is that, this working group is something that's meaningful to people, and we actually walk away with tangible action items. There's a lot of great ideas out there, but we need to really figure out what works best for everyone, so we best use all of our time. So without further ado, Ms. Rios.
Thanks, Jeremy, and good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here. I'm the Sustainability Coordinator for Keep Truckee Meadows Beautiful. It's a small nonprofit up here in the Truckee Meadows area, Northern Nevada. And much like what Jeremy was saying, we're very passionate about educating our community on all of these sustainability topics. And so I think this is a great opportunity for our organization to get involved with this group in order to just expand all of these communication outlets and utilize all of our resources to find a cohesive message that we can communicate to the rest of the state. So I'm very excited to be part of this.
Awesome. So I'm just going to go through the participant list as it shows on my screen. I know that a number of the NDEP folks, you guys have probably already heard their introductions, but in case some of you have not been on the other working groups, I'm going to go ahead and have them do a brief intro to themselves as well. So first person on the list is Miss Kayla.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kayla Allm, and I'm with NDEP. I am the Sustainable Materials Management Coordinator, and I'm, along with Bree, providing support to all of these 6 different working groups. Thank you very much for joining us today. We are very excited for your participation.
Thank you, Kayla. All right, Miss Case, you are next.
Hi, I'm Bree Case with NDEP. Like Kayla, I'm a sustainability coordinator. I also do hazardous waste inspections in the Las Vegas, Clark County area.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Jones.
Hi guys, I'm Skylar. I'm the Education and Outreach Coordinator for the Bureau of Sustainable Materials Management. I'll hopefully be a supporting role in this group, and I'm just here to listen to what you guys need and what support you need, so I'm really excited.
All right, thank you. Amy, I do not want to butcher your last name, so I will go ahead and have you say that.
Thanks, Jeremy. It's Amy Frugoli. I am the Programs Manager at Envirolution up in Reno. Very, very excited to be part of this group. Our mission at Envirolution is to inspire and empower the next generation of leaders and workers who will drive the growth of a sustainable economy. So a lot of what you kind of said in your intro, Jeremy, really feels like it fits, and I'm in the right place. So excited to kind of have this great group of people and brainstorm and see what we can do here for Nevada.
Great, thank you. All right, Alexia.
Hello, I do recognize some of your faces from the policy and funding meeting that we had recently. I'm Alexia Sober. I am with Comstock Mining in Virginia City, Nevada. I'm an archaeologist by profession, but I also work in market research and grant management. And also I work with the nonprofit sectors for historic preservation and, cultural and heritage organizations to try to keep a grasp on our history. So I have a lot of interest in, finding positive ways to help educate our public, our stakeholders, because, really all of what we do is for them ultimately. So thanks for being in the group.
Great, thank you. All right, I have a phone number ending in 7047.
Being on the phone. My name's Lauren Boytel. I'm the Executive Director of Impact NV. I'm between meetings, so I had to jump on phone today, but we're a sustainability nonprofit, not a service provider, but more of a coalition builder convener. We do have a State of Sustainability interactive data portal where we can get data and statistics and information out to the community, as well as our website, a newsletter, and we host an annual sustainability summit called Convene NV. So anything we can do with those tools to get more information and education out, we're happy to support.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think part of what we're going to be working on is seeing what resources this broader group has in existence already and how we might be able to best leverage those. I know that there's someone down the list who I have in mind that hopefully we'll tap into, and we'll dive into that more, but thank you, Lauren. Carly Norton.
My name is Carly Norton, and I work for Waste Management, for Northern Nevada Waste Management, and I am the recycling education representative. So I think that this group fits in well with what I do because it's all about educating the public about sustainability. So thanks.
Thank you. All right, Zoe Bray.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Zoe Bray. I'm an independent artist living in Reno. I'm also a member of a group that was created earlier this year in Reno and covering also Sparks and Washoe County called Reusable Reno. And our aim is to encourage businesses and local inhabitants to think more in terms of not only recycling, but especially reusing. So the emphasis on reducing our waste with the aim of going more zero waste and developing alternative ways of using food accessories, for instance, thinking more in terms of reusing. One of the important projects we're working on is a so-called Skip the Stuff campaign, which involves encouraging businesses, restaurants to offer, to get away from single-use food accessories and only give out these accessories on demand, so not imposing these on customers when they get takeout. So reducing the use of single-use plastics from the source.
That's great. Are you a part of the source reduction working group by any chance?
No, I'm not, but I believe one member of our group is. One thing also that I forgot to mention is, as an artist, I'm working on developing a curriculum for children at the elementary school level that helps to introduce them to zero waste, how to think more in terms of reuse than constant use of new materials that then get thrown away.
Great, thank you. All right, Dean.
Yes, Dean Stanfield with United Engineering Sciences. We, of course, very interested in education. I'm also the chairman for the organics group, and certainly part of our task is to educate the public more on the importance and the reason behind organics, diversion, reuse, that sort of thing. So this is very important to us. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean. All right, Mr. Rosen.
Me. Hey, Jeremy. Hi, Kim and the gang. Craig Rosen with the Desert Research Institute. I'm located down here in Las Vegas, but also have an office up in Reno. DRI is part of the Nevada System of Higher Education, and we do all the environmental and applied science research. We have an Office of Education that does a lot of sustainability education as well as STEM and STEAM education throughout the state. And we support our Nevada's K-12 educators with tools and resources they need to bring science to life in their classrooms. So this is a perfect place for me to be, and I'm really grateful that you all convened this meeting.
Yes, thank you. And for those that caught me alluding to leveraging somebody, it was Mr. Rosen that I had in mind. I know that they have a plethora of resources that exist already, and so they are a good platform for us to potentially tie into. So thank you, Mr. Rosen, for being a part of this. And then last but not least, Lakshmi.
You know me from the source reduction team. I'm chairing that group. I am based in Reno, and along with Zoe, part of Reusable Reno. And in addition to what Zoe mentioned earlier about us, I'm interested in education, but more from the angle of children and maybe nature walks and that kind of stuff. So, but overall, yeah, I'm very curious about what you all come up with, and I want to learn from it. So from all the different resources here already. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Lakshmi. Yeah, and again, that's a big part of this is understanding what some of the other working groups' needs are, and source reduction is one of them. Part of that is going to be education, whether it's educating the consumer, educating a business. There are a number of ways that we're going to have to try to figure out how to best deliver that. So thank you for being here, Lakshmi. I did see 2 last-minute joins. So the first one was a phone number ending in 2631. For those that just joined, we're just doing some brief introductions, who you are, who you represent, and maybe a little bit about the interest in the group. So 2631.
Hi, Jeremy. This is actually, hold on, let me change my audio settings. Hi, Jeremy. This is Laura Rosales from Nevada State College, and I'm joining with the phone and my computer because I screwed up the audio for my computer, and I haven't been able to figure out. So the 2 people is 1 person. My name is Laura Rosales, and I'm a professor of the Environmental and Resource Science program at Nevada State College at Henderson, Nevada. So what I would love to learn more is on how we can use the information provided by Republic Services or any other resource that's out there on how to better manage our waste and reduce the production of waste as well. So I look forward to learn from you all on how to better spread the word to our students in my case and the population in general.
Great, thank you, Laura. All right, so it looks like we're done with the introduction. So before we move into discussion, one thing that I feel is worth mentioning is, something I talked right at the opening of, and that's, sustainability. We typically see from the consumer level that a lot of people put focus and emphasis on what my industry does, right? Waste and recycling, and that's a huge component of it, but there are other industries that we do need to target as well, so we can help, again, drive that sustainable needle in Southern Nevada, Northern Nevada, rural Nevada. So if you guys, as we're working through what the Partners for Sustainable Nevada looks like, over the next few months, if you identify people that you think would be an asset, please invite them to join, even if it's just for one meeting, just to see if it's something that they're interested in. But, you know, better representation from power, from gas, from water, right? There are so many other facets of sustainability. I don't want to get to a point where we're diluting messaging, but I think they're all critical components to what we're trying to achieve here. So you can let myself know if you have someone in mind and they need a little bit more backstory on what we do. Otherwise, I know the girls over at NDEP are happy to provide some of the information that they've given us and got us interested in joining. So please keep that in mind as we're working through these. So Kim, is there anything that you wanted to add before we jump in?
Nope. Let's get started.
Okay, so again, this is going to be fairly broad to start. I think a lot of what we're going to do is be supporting the other working groups and their mission statements. But the first thing I wanted to discuss today, you can raise your hand in the group, you can throw it in the chat, however you want to do it, is try to identify some target areas, right? Our areas of focus, where we think we're going to get our best bang for our buck. And that could be recycling. It could be source reduction. But I think that there is benefit in highlighting some of the main topics and then working through what that looks like moving forward. So really want this to be open and conversational. I know virtual meetings are sort of old hat at this point, and it's very easy to kind of sit by and maybe, I don't want to say not contribute because that sounds a little harsh, but really want everyone's voices to be heard. So, you know, you guys find value out of this group, and then we can create value for everyone else. So first and foremost, obviously I'm going to say recycling and waste. That's a big focus area for us. I know here in Southern Nevada, we have a number of headwinds when it comes to recycling, the quality of recycling, the interesting things that we see come to our facility. If anyone saw the news a couple of weeks ago, we had a really large fire at our recycling center, and we don't know what the cause was, but we have reason to believe that it was potentially a lithium battery, right? So there's potential for education there to get people to understand that lithium batteries have no place in the trash or the recycling, and they need to be handled in a specific process. So that would be my initial thought. Alexia, I see you have your hand raised.
Yeah, first of all, Jeremy, I totally agree with you about having a very large and loud conversation about lithium waste, where it goes, how it should be treated, so on and so forth. That's a very, very important conversation, especially since we're all moving, in the direction of electric vehicles and our cell phones and so on. But the comment that I wanted to make was, and I kind of alluded to this in the policy and funding meeting, but if we define what sustainability means, not specifically relating just to recycling, but just in general, what does sustainability mean, right? I think that maybe we can work on an educational program to share with the rest of the committees about how we can educate the public regarding sustainability as a whole and not just one part of it, right? Because I think that the public will have various interests and various different topics of sustainability that suit their own needs. So that's just sort of my opening comment there. Thanks.
No, thank you. I would wholeheartly agree with that, and that's said a little bit more eloquently than I did. That's what I was trying to reiterate, is that the low-hanging fruit is talking about recycling, right? That's what comes to mind when a lot of people think about sustainability, but there are so many other facets to it. So I think defining what sustainability means for the state is beneficial, right? And how we translate that into consumer value, right? A lot of my job, you'll hear me probably throw out some marketing terms, as I do in my real world job, is PR marketing. So we have to figure out how that message resonates with people, where they actually listen to it and then make action on it, right? So that's great. Thank you. Anybody else? Nobody? Mr. Rosen, I'm going to call you to the floor.
sir. Thanks, Jeremy. I'll echo the previous person who just spoke up about sustainability, because, you know, we talked about the whole notion of global warming, right? And people said, oh, well, the Earth's really not warming, and then they changed it to climate change. I think the same thing is lost with the word sustainability. It's not defined. People don't understand it. People don't understand why it's important and why they should get involved. So that would be a really cool focus for this group, is to define what this means and why it's important for everyone to be part of it.
I would agree with that. So having said that, you know, how does the broader group think that we go about doing that? Do we maybe throw some ideas around of a definition, a couple different options, much like the NDEP folks started out with? I think you guys actually may have done, in a broad sense, something around that when we were originally getting Partners for Sustainable Nevada started. Did you guys create a definition of sustainability, or was it more of a definition of what Sustainable Nevada meant? You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it was a definition, right, Kayla? A definition of what a sustainable Nevada looks like.
Yes, and that was also more of an internal bureau usage of how we're going to view sustainability. You know, as I'm sitting here thinking, several groups have, just like you guys talked about, the sustainability definition for the state. And maybe this is something we can look at kind of like as a midterm meeting with all groups together, is how can we create a sustainability definition?
Yeah, I like that. And I think that maybe that is something that, you know, you bring up a good point. Maybe it's a midterm discussion, right? As some of these working groups kind of start figuring out what their focus areas are, you know, we can all come together with hopefully a little bit more direction. And then as a broader group, not just the education and outreach group, but as a broader group, come up with that definition. And I think the way that you guys did it initially for your internal purposes with defining what the group means, you know, maybe coming up with some key phrases, throwing it up in a poll, culminating some of these ideas, and then creating a definition from that. I think if the group agrees with me on that, I think that might be the best way to go about it. Kim, I see your hands up.
Yeah, so I like the idea of putting a definition to sustainability, but part of me also wonders how it's being defined already by like municipalities. So we've talked a little bit about the states and their efforts in defining it, but I know, for instance, the city of Reno has also put a definition to sustainability. I'm not quite sure what other regions look like, but maybe we could also pull from that as well, because essentially I feel like a lot of what we're going to do will be also working with municipalities in that sense as well. And so maybe having some type of, not so like overlap, but just making sure we know what is already in existence.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I know that on the list of people that are on the groups, looking at it now, she's not on here today, but we do have Suzanne Groneman, does say that she's from the city of Reno, so maybe you know, maybe she can assist us on that. I have a couple folks in mind from, you know, the greater Las Vegas area that I'd like to see potentially join on here. I also see you guys have Brooklyn Oswald from the city of Reno. So I do think that that is important, right? Because a lot of what we do industry-wide, whether it's what I do, whether it's what Alexia is doing over in mining, you know, I think that understanding what our municipal partners, you know, expect out of a definition of sustainability will help drive the needle, right? Because if we have municipal support, that helps make our jobs as private industry, as non-governmental, you know, nonprofit, that helps us in the broader sense. So I think that we need to try to figure out how to better engage our municipal partners and then find out what their definition is. Alexia, I don't know if your hand just didn't clear. Do you have something else?
I do, yeah. I wanted to bring up too. So it's really quick. One of the projects that I work on up here on the Comstock in the mining sector is mercury remediation from abandoned mine lands, right? Which is a huge problem. It's a global problem. So that brings me to, you know, the United Nations came out with their SDGs, right? I don't know if everyone's familiar with that, the Sustainability Development and Governance sort of program. And they've got, you know, 19 sort of key words that describe what they mean by sustainability, and then just a plethora of fantastic information that follows up each of those keywords. You know, so I think the scope is great, right? We want to look at municipalities and then the state, and then even, you know, the world at large. So I think that would be a really good resource also to sort of answer this question of what does sustainability really mean for us. That's, you know, in large part, the idea is, you know, that we want to educate, you know, the public in our state so that they have an ownership and they want to participate and they care and they're not turned off by, you know, the politicizing of sustainability. You're either for or against it because you're either Democrat or Republican or whatever, you know, the divisiveness. So to try to be inclusive on the positive side of things, including the United Nations, I think might be a good way to go.
Yeah, I like that. And if you have the link to that resource, I know I'd be curious to take a look at it. You know, I think you hit on something that's very important. And, you know, I think that typically sustainability tends to lean on one end of the political spectrum versus the other. And so how do we sort of redefine that interpretation of it, right? Because sustainability does not have a political party line. Sustainability is something that directly impacts every single one of us on here and every other person out in the world. So, you know, how do you create that stakeholder interest and get them to understand that it's a direct benefit to them? And if we don't take care of the planet, right, there's implications, negative implications that come, you know, potentially short-term, long-term, future generations, right? So how do we redefine that expectation that, you know, sustainability is only for the blue side of the coin, right? Laura, so you have your hand up? Oh, thank you.
Yes,
Alexia.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I really like Alexia's idea of like having the overarching umbrella of the sustainability development goals from the United Nations, and then maybe below that, like just start creating a document on what sustainability is for different parties, so we have like a more inclusive view of what sustainability is, and at the same time, we redefine our own idea of sustainability. So, because we don't have to be exclusive of what sustainability is for other people. Like I know that when we started the conversation with our administration at Nevada State College about what is sustainability for them, they have a completely different idea regarding students and the growth of the campus. But for us has a more broader implication. So starting broad, I think will allow us to be more inclusive. And then as I think Kim mentioned, then just over that, then just start saying, okay, like if we have this broader panorama of what sustainability is, what from all this broader panorama, what does the different municipalities are focusing on? And then from there we can just define what kind of resources we can provide. Like one of the things I want to also mention is that I think a lot of it is that we have, is just to provide the resources, as you were mentioning, Jeremy, it's just somebody is trying to figure out what sustainability is, and they find myriad of pieces of information, or they want to do something better and they don't even know how to properly dispose the lithium batteries. So I think that would be ideal if we as a group help to define what sustainability is and create a central hub where the information where people can contribute their information, but where there's information on how to promote these sustainable practices as well.
Great, thank you, Laura. Yeah, I think that what we're all sort of circling the drain here on is that we really need to come up with a true definition of what sustainability means, and then kind of go from there. So I think we're all on the same page. Alexia, you raise your hand again.
I did. Sorry, I'm not trying to take the show here. I wanted to add to, right, we need to define what sustainability is, as we just discussed, and I think everyone has absolutely brilliant ideas. And then we also, I think, need to define in the very beginning of this group, how we disseminate this information, like through what channels, right? And I think a lot of you are definitely experts in this field, right? Jeremy, that's PR, it's what you do, but who are the lists of people that we're going to need to contact in order to share this message, large and wide. So I think, in my opinion, those two topics probably are the most important to tackle right away before we move into detailed work.
You're 100% correct, and that's sort of the second portion of the discussion today. So I think this is a good kicking off point, but I know Ms. Rios, you had something that you wanted to add before we maybe jump into that.
Hi, Alexia actually took the words right out of my mouth, and I think it's also worth mentioning the type of demographics that we're working with as well, the different types of populations we're working with, and really globalizing our resources and making it really accessible for all different parts of our communities.
You're exactly right. So having said what you just said, and what Alexia sort of perfectly teed us up for, is the next part of the discussion, which is identifying shortfalls, right? There's a lot of shortfalls when it comes to educating the public on sustainability. Where are there opportunities? What problems are we going to have to work through? And this is something that is very near and dear to me, because a bulk of my job is trying to educate the public around recycling and sustainability in Southern Nevada. And so there are massive challenges when it comes to disseminating a message out there. For private industry, it's all cost, right? We are a private industry, and no matter what service I'm offering, right, recycling is arguably beneficial for the public, but working with media outlets, I have a number of great media contacts here in Southern Nevada, but unless it's a newsworthy, buzzworthy, catchy story, you're not going to get what you call earned media. Earned media is something that is free. They want to cover it, right? Like an unfortunate incident where you have a fire at a recycling center. It may not be positive, but that's earned media, right? So then you have to look at paid opportunities. And so a lot of what I end up having to do is pay to get recycling messaging out there. And again, when I'm giving you guys examples and saying recycling, right, I'm not saying that that's the focus of this group. I'm just giving you real world examples of what I have to deal with day in and day out, trying to perpetuate that message, right? I'm not trying to sell a service to somebody. I'm not trying to sell them recycling. We are a franchise hauler here in Southern Nevada. As a resident, you have to use us for recycling. So what I'm trying to do is just trying to get people the information that they need to be a conscious recycler, to be impactful in their recycling habits. So this is where it's going to be a really important conversation on how do we work through these pitfalls? What resources are already existing that we can best leverage that don't cost money, right? But how are those resources going to get in front of people? And I know that there's a number of great organizations on this group. Maybe there's opportunities to leverage their social media, or if they have a sustainability message, and if they're a nonprofit, the media potentially looks at them in a different light, where if they're not trying to sell a product, they're not for profit, they can actually get media coverage around particular things. So that's part of the, you know, maybe the longer picture, the bigger, broader plan. But really, for you guys, I'd like to hear what you think exists in terms of shortfalls and maybe how there's opportunities for us to get past that. Lakshmi, I saw your hand jump right up.
Yeah, I think, Carly, you're from waste management, right? So maybe this is kind of directed there. One thing I noticed.
No offense to my waste management counterpart on here, but
no.
Public services, so.
No, I just had an idea that I wanted to share. I was just thinking that I moved to Reno last year, and then one of the things that I could benefit more from, and I'm guessing from my neighbors here as well, is maybe a bit more of an educationary information, whether it's, you know, through lettering and on exactly what's recyclable. And I mean, I educated myself by going to the website, which is great. And also, by the way, Kim, KTMB also has great resource. Thank you for that. And but I kind of feel that it's not as prevalent in my neighborhood. So I'm just thinking, one of the things, I don't know if we want to add some educational material there that might be helpful. So yeah.
So this is I'm normally not someone who talks a lot. I'm usually a man of few words, but this is my wheelhouse. And Carly, since that's your area, I'll let you expand a little bit more. But when it comes to recycling education, I have a lot of experience on this particular topic. And so Lakshmi, you know, I appreciate that you are sustainability driven, right? You are mindful, you want to learn, you want the resources. Not everybody has the same opinion on it, right? And when it comes to what I'm going to call just waste management as a whole, there's a lot of headwinds that come with that, because generally speaking, a lot of consumers have an expectation that the service is provided to them, and that, you know, anything outside of that, it really falls on the company, right? And so I've done a number of projects here in Southern Nevada with recycling and recycling education, whether it's as simple as throwing a billboard, you know, up on the freeway, it's running a radio spot, a television commercial. We've done boots on the ground, direct to home education, where I'm literally going in a neighborhood, lifting up a cart lid, looking at what's in there, marking a little placard, and putting it on their cart. And then we do some data collection on the back end, where we're literally physically auditing the material before we do that implementation, after we do the implementation, to see if it makes any difference. We've done mailers. We have a very unique challenge in our marketplace here in Southern Nevada. And Carly, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, being up in Reno area. But since we're the franchise holder, and as a resident, you don't necessarily have a choice. You have a really low garbage rate. You pay $47 a quarter for once a week trash, once a week recycling, and all the other wonderful things that we provide you. When I put something in a letter and I mail it to you, 9 times out of 10, it's going in one of the waste bins, right? Hopefully the recycling bin, because it's paper. But people know I pay my $47 a quarter, and you know, what else is there to know? So when we start putting mailers out there, we don't really get the traction that we want. So that's where we have to think about when we're talking, you know, maybe there's other opportunities with other things. I just know, particularly in Southern Nevada, we've tried a lot of those direct to home touch points, and it's very, very difficult to get consumers to take notice to it. But you're right, though, in the sense that we do need more recycling education out there, and it needs to be more prevalent. One thing that I wanted to share with you guys as an example, you know, I don't have much control on what content I can put on this website, because we do have a corporate office, but I want to share my screen. Make sure everybody can see it. Can everybody see my screen now? Just give me a nod or a thumbs up or a, yep. Okay, cool. So this is a website that our organization has developed because there is consumer demand for education, right? So this is a pretty comprehensive resource on, you know, best practices. There are nuances, right? There's going to be nuances, like in Southern Nevada, we take glass and you don't see it listed here. But this is the fundamental stream that I would be willing to bet Carly takes up in Northern Nevada. You know, I take down here. We're telling you some of the things to do, you know, some of the common things that we see and why they're a challenge for us. So there's a lot of really interesting resources on this page where you can go through. We've got videos. I'm not trying to give myself a plug. That was when my beard was shorter, but we've got them in Spanish as well. So there's really excellent resources that if people on this group, you know a venue where they can take them and disseminate them, by all means, they're here, they're free. We have K through 12 curriculum that's nationally approved. An educator can come on here, they can select their grade group, and then they can download full lesson plans, bookends, right? It's start to finish. The only thing they need is to collect a couple recyclables for their examples. So I think that there's benefit in finding a way to best leverage things that already exist rather than reinvent the wheel. How can we then perpetuate this stuff and get it into more hands? So I know that was a lot and I've been rambling on. Carly, do you have anything that maybe is insightful from your market on this topic?
I agree with everything that you just said. Is the same thing. Like, we have the resources and we have tried to put the resources out there, but it's just how to get them to the people. And especially with mailing, we mail things out and it's just, I don't think a lot of people open them. So if there's a different way that we can try to get those resources out, that'd be great if we can try to focus on that a little bit.
We can't hear you, Jeremy.
Thank you. I'm not tech savvy. I may be younger, but I'm not very tech savvy, so thank you. Lakshmi, thank you for your note. That is something that I have been very curious of myself. You know, it's something that I've unfortunately not been able to get off the ground, but working with HOA groups is it makes a very compelling argument that someone is going to actually look at the information. I know I live in an HOA, and when I get a letter from them, I rip it open immediately because I'm wondering, you know, did I do something wrong? Do I need to correct something? Because I don't want to fine, right? And 9.5 times out of 10, it's, you know, when the next board meeting is. But at least for me, anecdotally, I'm looking at that more readily than maybe something from my own company, right? Because I know I'm paying $47 a quarter and there's not much more to it. So there could be opportunity with HOAs. We just need to identify how to best get in front of an HOA, propose ideas to maybe leverage a mailer that's already going out, right? There's benefit to that potentially because there's less cost if something's already posted, ready to be mailed, and you can throw an insert in there. So that's something that I think is worthy of maybe a longer discussion. Craig, I think I saw that you had raised your hand.
I did. You know, thinking through this, Jeremy, you have great stuff on there. There's two parts to the education piece, right? There's one is how to do it, but I think the more important one is why, the why behind it. And I think we're missing that, right? We're missing that part of the education because we can't change people's minds or we can't ask people to do anything if they don't know why they're doing it. And I think that that is something that I'd like to explore with this group because it all ties in. Like you said, everything ties into one another, right? Water, power, climate, it all ties into all this climate stuff. So the why behind it is really important in addition to the how.
No, I would wholeheartedly agree with you. And I think that potentially ties into what our sort of first order of business is, and that's defining sustainability, right? Because once we have a definition of what sustainability is, we can then go sell that to, you know, you're going to hear me refer to people as stakeholders, right? Because that's a number of different people. It's members of the public, it's elected officials, it's students. So when I say stakeholders, I'm talking about a really broad group. But I think that's part of that definition, right? When we define what sustainability is, we can then go sell that message on why it's important, why people should care. And that is pivotal. I think that is going to be the most compelling part of what we do, is getting people to have a vested interest in why it matters. So yes, I agree with you there. There's a number of hands up. Skylar, you're first on my list.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of reiterating what Craig said. I do think, throughout this conversation, we've kind of identified that there are people that are already on the sustainability wagon and they want to support and they're willing to put in the time to learn more. And then we have the other people that maybe just aren't quite there yet. And how do we get those people engaged? Because obviously your extensive education efforts, through waste management and Republic Services, they're being put out there and they're just not being received, because the people that are already doing it right are the ones that, already support the idea of sustainability, and the others just haven't quite been fully engaged yet. And that is, I do think it is important to cover that with the why is sustainability important overall. That could be a statewide campaign, like we need to use these groups to define what sustainability is, why is it important, and then make sure that through all of these individual partners, we have actionable ways that people can contribute to that. But I do think that the first step would be defining what sustainability is and then why it's important for Nevada as a whole, getting that message out there, and then focusing, having the regional campaigns there to support that, whether it's waste or energy or water or whatever that looks like. But that was just a thought that I had.
No, I would agree with you. And I think, and I know we're rounding close out on time and there's a number of people that still have contributions that they want to make. But I think that that's going to be our biggest thing out the gate before we start really diving into the shortfalls, is getting this definition clear. And then I would argue that we need a sort of uniform approach as to where we're disseminating this information from. And I would challenge NDEP to ask, is there a resource for you guys to create, I know the idea behind Partners for Sustainable Nevada is that it's to sort of shift from people thinking like the state entity is coming here to drive things down your throat. But I think that we may have all these great ideas, but if it's this shotgun approach that Republic's sending something out, Keep Truckee Beautiful is sending something out, DRI is sending something out, those are great and supplemental, but I think we need an overarching entity or something that this information is going to live on, right? When we go and we do this push to say this is why sustainability is important, who is it coming from? And I think it needs to come from the state level, whether you guys call yourselves NDEP or Partners for Sustainable Nevada. I think that we need sort of this governing body that's going to help us drive the truck down the road, and then all of us and our resources, we can help supplement that. Alexia, I do like your comment that it does seem a little hypocritical on putting mailers out there when we're talking about sustainability. So, maybe we can find ways to leverage HOAs in different ways. Did you have something else that you wanted to add on that?
I just really quick, I know we're running out of time. I think that Smokey the Bear and the Give a Hoot Don't Pollute Owl maybe should be like a reference point for us to decide on the single source that this information comes from. And I don't want to be a naysayer, but I'm a pragmatic person, right? Northern Nevada and Southern Nevada are two completely different worlds. So I think that we also need to define what our resources are and I know we talked about the three aspects of the state, so rural too, right? So I think that needs to be clearly defined as well. Those were the two things that I had to say.
No, you're right. And that's completely on track. And I think that's something that maybe we, again, we're cutting really close on time. I'm really happy that we've had this much discussion filled in here. So I think that we need to work on that, because you're right. Northern Nevada, Southern Nevada, and rural are all very different animals. And there's going to be some unique approaches to each one of these. So I think we'll save that for maybe next time we meet. Zoe, you have something? Zoe, you look like you're frozen. I'm gonna go to Lakshmi.
Yeah, I forgot to take my hand down earlier.
Oh, okay, all right. So Zoe, if you become unfrozen again, throw something in the chat. Frequency, meeting frequency, right? We all have regular day jobs. You know, I want to be cognizant of that. Do you guys, I would throw it in the chat maybe to get a sort of a consensus. Do you guys want to meet bi-weekly, monthly, bi-monthly? What do you guys think is the best frequency? All right, so we'll gather the consensus in the group. Yes, Laura, I can throw that in the chat. It looks like we're going between bi-weekly and monthly. So I'll tabulate those when we conclude and see where we're at, and we'll send something out from there. But I think what we need to do then moving forward before the next meeting, whether it's 2 weeks from now or a month from now, I think we need to take a look at that resource that Alexia provided early on with the definitions from the UN, and then take into consideration what some of these other groups are trying to do, and then that's where we're going to define what sustainability means, and maybe we'll put together, if the NDEP crew is okay with it, we'll put together a little poll on maybe some of the different components of it and try to define, that way. And then from there, figuring out, okay, how do we start telling people why it's important to, gather that trust in the process, and then figuring out that's where we're going to really have to dig into where these shortfalls and opportunities are, and maybe some homework on NDEP's side is, like I said, figuring out if there is a, singular place where we can house some of the bigger topics. And then as Alexia mentioned, we'll have to do some legwork on figuring out how to best disseminate that to where I'm going to call 3 target areas. And there may be some, some customization for the messaging there. So I would challenge everyone to start thinking about what maybe sustainability, like an early on question, what sustainability means to them, to their industry, and then we'll come back depending on what our frequency is, and hopefully we'll come up with something then. Okay. Anybody, any closing thoughts on that? Looking at none. Zoe, I see you're unfrozen. Did you have something that you were trying to say earlier?
Yes, hi. Sorry, I disappeared. Just quickly, just taking up on what was said before about the importance of how to recycle, but also why. And so I gave just in the chat, I just said something more about how that the importance, maybe more effective than mailings, is having posters that people who don't have the patience to open their letters can just see as they're walking by. So more kind of indirect nudges for people, and maybe even big stickers on bins so that reminds people what they should put in what bins. And the information, Jeremy, that I saw on your website is fantastic. It's very, very didactic. It's very simple and goes straight to the point. So that's important. And I think when we're brainstorming on what is sustainability, I think it's important, like Craig said about the importance of reminding why, is because there are a lot of people I know in the area who don't bother, for instance, with recycling, is because they think, oh, well, it all ends up in the same place anyway. This is all a sham. So there is a lot of cynicism out there. So it's definitely the recycling industry and just very sustainable sustainability organizations have to get much more communication out there about what, more transparency, what could be said about what is actually going on, what does recycling actually involve, where is it all going, and how, and the harms of pollution. Getting much more to the details about that. Often we just give out very general statements that don't mean much to people, so be much more specific.
Thank you. Yes, yeah, I think that'll be part of the discussion once we get some framework laid out. Is maybe some more of the specifics and the nuances on what we need to get out there. So we'll definitely be discussing that in the near future. Got about a minute left. My tally, I'm not a mathematician by any means, but it looks like I'm evenly split on bi-weekly and monthly. So if everyone's okay with it, I think what I'll do is I'll split the difference, and we'll, at least out the gate, maybe we'll meet every 3 weeks, if that works. Is everyone okay with that? All right, hearing no opposition, any final thoughts before we conclude? Okay, well, thank you guys again. I know sometimes these first meetings getting started are a little bit rocky, but you guys all contributed some really great ideas, and I think that we'll have a really great working group moving forward as we get some of these things ironed out. So thank you very much, and hope you all have a great weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Goodbye.